The same people that were riding with Lil Durk in 2019 are now sitting in a federal courthouse telling the government everything. And somebody saw this coming 6 years ago. Think about that for 1 second. 6 years ago. While everybody was screaming OTF forever, while the merch was selling, while the shows were packed, while the streams were climbing into the hundreds of millions, one person allegedly looked at this whole operation, looked at the people surrounding Durk, and said out loud what nobody else had the nerve to say. And the crazy part? Nobody listened. Or maybe, and this is what keeps me up, maybe Durk did listen, and there was nothing he could do about it anyway. Ask yourself this. If 50 Cent, the same man who built an empire after getting shot 9 times, the same man who watched his own circle fall apart from the inside and wrote the playbook on how that happens, if that man posted a specific warning about OTF in 2019, why are we only now connecting those dots in 2025? Who in Durk's circle knew this day was coming? And more importantly, who in Durk's circle allegedly made sure it did? Because what is unfolding in federal court right now is not just a RICO case. According to sources close to the situation, this is the most organized unraveling of a rap circle since G-Unit, and 50 Cent allegedly called it down to the specific details. Do not move. Do not skip. Because what I am about to show you rewrites everything you thought you knew about loyalty inside OTF. And the twist at the center of this story is one that nobody, not a single outlet, has had the nerve to say out loud yet. To understand what is happening right now in federal court, you have to go back to a moment that most people wrote off as social media noise. It was the spring of 2019, and Lil Durk's Only the Family brand was at an inflection point. The Chicago drill movement had been building for nearly a decade, and OTF had positioned itself as the beating heart of that movement, not just musically, but culturally, financially, and according to federal prosecutors, operationally in ways that went far beyond music. Durk had just dropped Just 'Cause Y'all Waited Too. The project had over 40 million streams in its first week across platforms, and the energy around OTF was unlike anything Chicago rap had seen since Chief Keef's early Interscope days. The label had real artists, real revenue, and a loyal street following that extended well past Chicago into Atlanta, Los Angeles, and New York. On the surface, everything was ascending. But underneath that surface, according to court documents that would not become public for another 5 years, federal investigators had already begun building a file. Sources with knowledge of the investigation reportedly confirmed that surveillance on several individuals connected to OTF had started as early as late 2018, meaning that while Durk was celebrating chart positions and expanding his roster, a separate, invisible countdown clock had already begun ticking in a federal building downtown. Now here is where it gets interesting. In April of 2019, 50 Cent, who at this point had been operating as an executive producer on Power, building G-Unity Foundation, and watching the rap industry from a uniquely elevated distance, posted a series of comments directed at Lil Durk and the OTF circle on his Instagram. At the time, most people read those posts as 50 doing what 50 does, trolling, provoking, manufacturing entertainment for his 40 million followers. Blogs covered it as another episode in the endless social media drama that 50 Cent has always been notorious for generating. The posts racked up millions of views, hundreds of thousands of comments, and then were largely forgotten by the following news cycle. But reportedly, those posts were not random. Sources close to 50 Cent's inner circle allegedly claim that the G-Unit founder had received specific information from people inside the industry, people who allegedly had connections to both the music business and law enforcement adjacent networks, that painted a very particular picture of where OTF's trajectory was heading. According to insiders, 50 allegedly told associates privately, quote, that whole situation is a ticking bomb and Durk is the only one who does not see it because he built it and he loves it too much to look at it clearly. That alleged quote, if accurate, is one of the most prophetic statements in recent rap history. Because every single word of it allegedly applies to exactly what is unfolding now. And this is the part that nobody is talking about. The people who are now cooperating with federal prosecutors, the people allegedly sitting in rooms with government lawyers, flipping through photographs, identifying locations, confirming dates, and reportedly providing the specific testimonies that could dismantle Durk's legal defense. These are not strangers. These are not rivals. These are not people who had surface-level affiliations with OTF. According to court filings and reporting from outlets who have reviewed sealed documents, The individuals currently cooperating are people who were inside Durk's immediate circle during the exact same 2019 window when 50 Cent was allegedly issuing his warnings. People who were in the studio. People who were on tour buses. People who were at family events. People who Durk allegedly trusted with information that you do not share with someone unless you believe, with your whole chest, that they are family. The betrayal, according to sources familiar with the case, did not happen overnight. It was allegedly years in the making. Federal investigators reportedly used a strategy that has become increasingly common in RICO prosecutions of music-adjacent organizations: a slow, patient accumulation of pressure applied to lower-level individuals in the circle until the weight of mandatory minimums and the reality of spending the next 2 decades in federal prison makes cooperation feel less like betrayal and more like survival. According to legal analysts who have reviewed similar cases, the government allegedly began approaching individuals connected to OTF as early as 2021, offering deals that started small and grew progressively larger as each cooperating witness provided information that led to new leads and new targets. Stay right here because it gets worse. According to a source who reportedly spoke to one of the individuals who was approached by federal investigators, the first conversations were almost casual. Allegedly described as just wanting to talk, nothing formal. The initial approaches were designed to create a paper trail of contact without triggering the kind of alarm that an official subpoena would generate. By the time those same individuals understood the full scope of what was being built against them personally, according to the source, the government allegedly already had enough documented evidence to pursue serious charges independent of any cooperation. The cooperation was not being offered as a lifeline. It was allegedly being offered as a way to avoid a life sentence for crimes that the government claimed it could already prove. That distinction is critical, because it means the people now testifying did not flip out of nothing. They were allegedly cornered years before anyone on the outside knew a case was even being built. And 50 Cent reportedly had heard the first whispers of exactly this kind of structural pressure being applied, not from law enforcement directly, but from the kind of industry veterans and street-connected figures who understand how federal cases get built long before indictments ever come down. The music industry has always had a shadow network of information that moves parallel to official channels. Lawyers, managers, promoters, label executives with relationships that span both legitimate business and environments where federal attention is a constant occupational hazard. According to insiders, 50 Cent did not just casually troll Durk in 2019. He allegedly sent a direct private message as well. A message that sources describe as significantly more specific and significantly more serious than anything that appeared on Instagram. The contents of that alleged message, according to those same sources, have never been made public. But reportedly, people who were shown the message at the time described it as, quote, the kind of thing that makes you go back and reread it 3 times because you're trying to figure out how he could possibly know that. What did 50 Cent allegedly know? And who allegedly told him? That question is the foundation of everything. Because the answer, according to sources close to the situation, connects directly to why certain people inside OTF allegedly began making specific decisions in 2020 and 2021. Decisions about who to distance from, decisions about finances, decisions about what was being documented and what was not, that suggest, reportedly, that the warning 50 issued may have reached more ears than Durk's alone. And that is exactly where this story stops being about social media beef and starts being about something far more calculated and far more dangerous than anything that ever played out on Instagram. Because if it is true that 50's alleged warning was received not just by Durk but by specific individuals around him, then you have to ask a question that is so uncomfortable that most people in the industry will not say it out loud. What if someone inside OTF used that warning not to protect Durk, but to protect themselves? Think about what that would mean. Think about the timeline. Think about the decisions that were made between 2019 and 2022, who moved differently, who started building distance, who stopped appearing in certain locations, who quietly restructured relationships while maintaining the public appearance of full loyalty. And then ask yourself whether those moves look random in retrospect or whether they look, allegedly, like someone who knew exactly what was coming and made sure they were positioned to survive it. Sources close to the situation have reportedly described a specific dynamic inside OTF during the 2020 to 2021 period that has largely gone undiscussed in public. According to these sources, there were individuals within the circle who had received, either directly or indirectly, some version of the information that 50 Cent was allegedly circulating. And rather than bringing that information to Durk openly, they allegedly began a quiet, methodical process of self-preservation that included, according to those same sources, making themselves available for certain conversations they would not have had in earlier years. Now here is the twist. The federal government's case, according to legal analysts and journalists who have reviewed portions of the publicly available filings, is allegedly built on a foundation of corroborated testimony. Not a single cooperating witness. Not two. Multiple individuals, allegedly coming from different positions within the same circle, providing information that reportedly aligns on key dates, key locations, and key specifics with enough consistency that federal prosecutors have reportedly described their evidentiary position as, quote, extremely strong. That phrase, extremely strong, when used by federal prosecutors in a RICO case with multiple cooperating witnesses, is not standard legal language. That is the kind of language, according to former federal prosecutors who spoke to various outlets, that signals the government believes they have essentially already won before the trial begins. And this is the part that nobody is talking about. The coordinated nature of the cooperation is what makes this situation allegedly unprecedented in recent rap history. When one person flips in a federal case, it is survivable. It is painful, it is damaging, but a skilled defense team can attack the credibility of a single cooperating witness, highlight their incentives for lying, and create enough reasonable doubt for a jury. But when multiple individuals from inside the same organization are allegedly providing consistent, corroborated testimony, when the stories line up on details that would be difficult to fabricate independently, the defense's options become dramatically narrower. According to legal strategists familiar with RICO prosecutions of music-adjacent organizations, the typical attack-the-witness strategy becomes almost impossible when the government has what is reportedly being described as a, quote, layered testimony structure. That term allegedly refers to a prosecutorial strategy where testimonies are deliberately elicited in a sequence that creates interlocking confirmations, where witness A's account sets up a specific factual claim, and witness B, who allegedly has no documented reason to coordinate with witness A, independently confirms that same factual claim from a different vantage point. According to insiders familiar with federal prosecution tactics, this is the gold standard of RICO testimony architecture, and it is reportedly what the government has allegedly built over the past several years in this case. Stay right here because it gets worse. The question of who specifically is cooperating has been the subject of intense speculation inside the Chicago rap community and beyond. Multiple outlets have reported various names with varying degrees of specificity and sourcing. What sources close to the situation have reportedly confirmed, without publicly naming individuals, is that at least some of the cooperating witnesses are people with long-term, deeply personal relationships with Lil Durk himself. Not peripheral members. Not associates who worked the fringes of OTF's operation. According to these sources, at least one cooperating witness is someone who, by every public account available, would have been considered completely untouchable from a loyalty standpoint as recently as 2021. That revelation, when it allegedly reached Durk's legal team, reportedly prompted an immediate and dramatic restructuring of his defense strategy. Sources allegedly close to the defense describe the period following confirmation of specific cooperating witnesses as one of, quote, controlled panic, where the attorneys had to rapidly assess what information these individuals potentially carried, how much of it was directly relevant to the charges, and what, if any, could be challenged on technical or procedural grounds. And here is what they allegedly did not want you to find out. The restructuring of the defense strategy reportedly included a significant change in how Durk's team was approaching his public profile. According to sources familiar with the legal discussions, there were internal conversations about whether Durk's extensive social media presence and the deeply personal, autobiographical nature of his music created a documentary trail that prosecutors could use to corroborate specific claims being made by cooperating witnesses. Rap artists have famously been confronted with their own lyrics as evidence in recent high-profile prosecutions, and the genre's tradition of specific, location-based, relationship-specific storytelling, which is a significant part of what has always made Durk's music resonate so deeply with his audience, allegedly created a very particular challenge for his defense team. 50 Cent, reportedly, had allegedly observed this exact dynamic in his own experience and in the experiences of people he had watched navigate federal pressure over the course of his career. Sources claim that 50 has allegedly said privately that the music is both the blessing and the trap, that the same authenticity that makes it real enough to connect is the same authenticity that makes it specific enough to be used. If 50 was allegedly circulating that warning in 2019, and if specific people around Durk allegedly received it and chose self-preservation over disclosure, then the timeline of cooperation and the timeline of the government's case-building effort allegedly overlap in a way that is, according to legal analysts, quote, not likely coincidental. This is not a story about one man facing federal charges. This is allegedly the story of how a circle that was built on a specific code of loyalty allegedly fractured from the inside out. Years before the indictments, years before the courtroom, years before the public knew anything was wrong, and how one person outside the circle allegedly saw the fracture forming before the people inside it did. Which brings us to the question that reportedly nobody at Durk's current table wants to answer. If 50 Cent knew, who inside OTF told him? That question has been reportedly circulating inside Chicago's rap ecosystem for months in ways that have not made it into mainstream coverage. But according to sources close to the street-level conversations happening in real time, it is the question that is allegedly tearing apart what remains of OTF's internal trust more effectively than any federal indictment ever could. Because indictments come from outside. They are a known threat, a documented enemy, something that can be collectively resisted or at least collectively acknowledged. But the question of an internal leak, of someone inside the circle who allegedly had conversations with 50 Cent's people in 2019, who allegedly fed specific information outward, and who is now sitting on one side of a courtroom that they reportedly helped create, that question destroys from the inside in a way that no outside force can replicate. Insiders close to the situation have reportedly described the atmosphere within what remains of OTF's active circle as, quote, everyone looking at everyone differently. According to one source who allegedly has regular contact with members of the group, conversations that used to happen freely and openly are now allegedly happening in fragments, in person only, with a level of vetting that sources describe as unprecedented for a group that historically operated on the foundation of deep, long-standing personal bonds. The trust infrastructure, allegedly built over more than a decade of shared history in Chicago, is reportedly fractured in ways that sources claim may be irreparable regardless of how the legal case ultimately resolves. And this is the part that nobody is talking about. Because while the court case is real, documented, and unfolding through official legal channels, the secondary damage, the social and relational damage allegedly happening in real time inside and around OTF, is, according to sources, arguably more significant in the long term than any sentence a judge could hand down. Federal sentences have end dates. The kind of distrust that allegedly develops when you cannot identify who inside your own circle was talking before the case was even public, that reportedly does not have an end date. 50 Cent, who has watched the entire situation unfold from the outside while continuing to comment on it through his social media platforms, has allegedly made several posts in the past year that sources close to him describe as, quote, pointed in a very specific direction. The posts, taken individually, are deniable and could be read as general entertainment commentary. But according to sources who claim familiarity with 50's private perspective on the situation, the posts allegedly contain specific references that are legible only to people who know the full internal history of what was allegedly communicated in 2019. The alleged message, according to these sources, is deliberate, a public signal to people who know the backstory that 50 has not forgotten what he reportedly said then, and that he is watching how it plays out now with the full knowledge that he allegedly called it years in advance. Stay right here because it gets worse. The specific nature of 50's alleged 2019 warning, the details that reportedly went beyond the Instagram posts and into direct private communications, has, according to sources, become a subject of internal debate within certain corners of the legal proceedings. Multiple sources have reportedly indicated that conversations have allegedly taken place about whether 50 Cent's alleged foreknowledge of specific organizational vulnerabilities within OTF is something that defense attorneys might attempt to explore. The theory being allegedly discussed, according to these sources, is whether 50's apparent knowledge in 2019 of dynamics that did not become publicly documented until years later might suggest that information was moving through channels that could, theoretically, be characterized as having had law enforcement adjacent origins. That theory, according to legal analysts who were presented with it without attribution, is described as, quote, aggressive but not without procedural logic in the context of a RICO defense strategy looking for any available avenue. Whether it advances beyond private discussion into actual courtroom strategy is, At this point, reportedly unknown. But the fact that it is allegedly being discussed at all speaks to how deeply the 2019 warning has embedded itself into the legal narrative surrounding this case. Now here is the twist. There is reportedly one more layer to this story that has not been discussed in any mainstream coverage, and according to sources close to the situation, it may be the most significant piece of context that exists for understanding why the current cooperating witnesses are as numerous and as credible as they allegedly are. The layer involves money. Specifically, according to sources, it allegedly involves financial arrangements that were made inside OTF between 2019 and 2021 that, according to insiders, were structured in ways that allegedly created documentation, paper trails, transaction records, communications, that federal investigators reportedly found significantly useful when building the foundation of the case. Sources close to the situation have allegedly described the financial architecture of OTF's operation during that period as having become, quote, too ambitious and too visible simultaneously, meaning that the scale of revenue moving through various channels allegedly grew faster than the protective structures around it, creating a situation where the documentation of financial activity was reportedly more detailed and more accessible to investigators than it would have been in earlier years, when the organization's operations were smaller and less structured. According to insiders, certain individuals within OTF allegedly raised concerns about this financial visibility as early as mid-2020. Those concerns, reportedly, were not adequately addressed. And according to sources, the individuals who raised them are among those who subsequently became most willing to engage with federal investigators when the pressure arrived. And here is what they allegedly did not want you to find out. The financial documentation reportedly provided investigators with a framework that made the testimonies of cooperating witnesses vastly more credible and vastly more useful than they would have been without it. Witness testimony in RICO cases, according to legal analysts, is always vulnerable to the argument that cooperating witnesses are lying to reduce their sentences. But when testimony is corroborated by documentary evidence, by financial records, by communication logs, by transaction histories, the witness's account stops being just a story and starts being, allegedly, a verified narrative. The government reportedly used the financial documentation as a spine and the testimony as the connective tissue, building what legal analysts describe as a case architecture that is extraordinarily difficult to challenge on credibility grounds alone. 50 Cent, according to sources, allegedly knew that this kind of structural vulnerability existed. He had allegedly watched it destroy circles before. He had, reportedly, lived through his own version of it. And in 2019, according to insiders, he allegedly looked at OTF and saw the same pattern forming: the rapid scaling, the increasing visibility, the organizational ambition outpacing the protective infrastructure, and said something about it, both publicly and privately, that everyone around Durk either dismissed or heard but chose not to act on. The people who did not act on it are allegedly now in courtrooms. The people who allegedly did act on it, who quietly repositioned, who allegedly made themselves cooperative before the formal pressure arrived, who used 50's warning as a personal roadmap rather than a collective alarm, are allegedly the ones now shaping the narrative that the government will present to a jury. And Lil Durk, the architect of everything, the man who built OTF from Chicago's streets into a global rap empire, is allegedly sitting at the center of a case that sources describe as having been constructed almost entirely by the people he trusted most. The same people who were screaming the loudest in 2019. The same people 50 Cent allegedly pointed at. And the most haunting question in this entire story is not whether Durk survives the legal case. It is this: does he already know which ones they are? Because according to sources close to his current situation, he does. He has allegedly known for a while now. And reportedly, that knowledge is the thing that is hardest to watch. Here is what we know for certain. A federal case is actively unfolding. People who were inside OTF circle are allegedly cooperating with the government. The legal jeopardy is real, documented, and serious. And a warning was allegedly issued in 2019 by someone with a track record of being right about exactly this kind of situation. But here is what we do not know, and what I need you to understand is still very much in motion. We do not know the full extent of who is cooperating, what specific information they have provided, or how deep the corroboration reportedly goes between witness testimony and the financial documentation that allegedly forms the spine of the government's case. We do not know whether the alleged private communication from 50 Cent in 2019 will ever become part of the official record or remain in the shadows of this story. And we do not know, and this is the one that should keep you watching, whether there are individuals still inside Durk's current circle who are allegedly still having conversations with people they should not be talking to. The case is not over. The story is not over. And the chapter that allegedly reveals exactly how 50 Cent came to know what he reportedly knew in 2019, the chapter has not been written publicly yet. If this story hit different for you, if it made you rethink something you thought you understood about OTF, about loyalty, about how these cases get built from the inside, then your like on this video is not just a number. It is the signal that tells the algorithm this story deserves to reach the people who need to see it. And this particular story deserves to be seen. Now I want you to answer one question in the comments right now, and I want you to be honest. Do you think Durk knew who the weak links were before the feds moved, or was he genuinely blindsided? Because the answer to that question changes everything about what happens next. And I think I already know what it is.